Welcome back to NMP Talk Show, the show that keeps you informed and engaged with topics about your mental health wellness. And today we're talking about business startups. It has been observed throughout that the failure rate of businesses can vary widely because it depends on various factors such as industry, location, economic conditions, and the word itself, failure. You have to take into consideration, but that we'll discuss at a later stage. It is so important to know that the startup failures or the failure rate for these startup businesses is generally higher than well established businesses. So, we want to unpack the secret of growing your business into this competitive market. And we know we had to have somebody who's an expert in it, which is Thabo Makama. Thabo, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much, Neo. Let me just adjust my camera.
Yes, please.
You
I
know,
was
you
about
know
to.
how this is. It's load shedding as well, so some
Yeah,
critical things that we need to sort out.
for
But
sure.
thank you for the opportunity as well. To be part of this part of your show, the NMP show, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this day, man. Being a podcaster yourself, I'm also following your podcast, religiously, and I'm quite intrigued by the way you present your topics. And I thought to myself, I have to have him on my show so that he can engage with my audience as well. I mean, there's gems of knowledge that you have there that you can share with my audience there. Thabo Makama is an entrepreneur builder, is SMME influencer, a small business podcaster, SME development expert. He's also CEO and business strategist. So just looking at these titles, you know that you just don't wake up in the morning and have them. You have to have a lot of experience to acquire these titles. So, the topic of our show is business startups, what it takes to thrive in a competitive market. I'm interested to hear from your side, Tabo, what we can do to thrive. But before we get there, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Cool, man. So I think when you reached out and said we need to have a chat about startups and being competitive, and startups potentially making it or not making it in the business, it just created a bit of a memory lane for me.
Yeah.
In fact, someone was asking me, how long one has been out of corporate and been driving their own business. Well, from a background perspective, I grew up in Soshanguve, Block BB, and I attended my high schooling in Hillview High, and I attended my primary school in Tsaroga and moved to another school in Capital Park, General Jack Binar. So those three different schools shaped my early, learning days in primary and high school. And I was very much a very naughty person, very outspoken, and I think I got introduced to selling at the particular age very early. I got exposed to my mom, who is a natural entrepreneur, self-taught. She's been selling multiple things, from Tupperware, Oatlier is like your secondhand clothing. She's sold pots, she's sold multiple things. So it's always been ingrained in us when growing up that my dad's income was not enough, and so we needed to have a surplus, a supporting income from my mom's side, hustling for us to make sure that we top up what was there. And I think that shaped
Just
how
before you
I
go on there, let me jump in before you continue. Who hasn't been raised by Tupperware? I mean, when I knew about
no, that's true.
entrepreneurship back in the days, it was all about Tupperware.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
um, they were in. If you were not selling
yeah.
Tupperware, I don't know what you were selling.
In fact, there were a few organizations that really mastered the network marketing space.
Yeah.
It was Angel, Tupperware, and also
Charles Vickers.
GNLD, Forever Living, Golden
Yeah.
Products. So all of those, they had really mastered how to engage people in the township, especially mothers,
Yeah.
who needed to sell. Either they sold where they worked and elsewhere. But it really made a big difference to people in terms of how they can engage and be part of this, network marketing and their early days of entrepreneurship. Yeah. So that was my first introduction of selling. For me, and I think you touched on it, selling fed cooks in late primary and early high school in the bus was one of the the early things that I did where I needed to have some guts
Yeah.
to sell to people, create a client base, and learn some lessons there.
I know myself. I was taking photos. I started being a photographer early in my years. I remember my
Yeah,
dad bought me a camera with a film.
yeah.
So back at home, I was the main photographer. When we were going on vacation, I took pictures. And I didn't know that at this point in time in my
One day,
life, you know, it will be putting plate on my table.
yeah, yeah.
What started
No,
as
no,
a
no. We
hobby.
we start early.
Yeah.
We start early, and I
Yeah.
think it's one of the things that we'll touch on later when we talk about what it takes to be a competitive entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That consistency and knowledge and skill that one needs to consistently have, and with that, it makes a difference. Yeah,
Yeah. 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 So while I'm scrolling through, you mentioned that you want to unpack 10 things that we should consider to
yeah.
remain competitive or even to survive, as a startup. Do you want to elaborate on those?
One needs to be aware of what are the things that you need to do as an entrepreneur, right?
Mm,
Remember one thing: everybody may have the aspiration to want to be an entrepreneur.
yeah.
But in order for you to continue running a progressive startup, one needs to be consistent. One needs to be aware of some of the things that you're going to be doing on a regular basis, right? So business is not a part-time job that you are going to do. You may do it as a side hustle, but it does not necessarily mean that it requires the less of an attention that you would give, right? I have learned over time that there are key things that people need to do in order for them to stay competitive. So that in itself creates a challenge, and when you go through that, you need to have a clear understanding to say, why am I doing this? You may have a very good idea, but if you have that particular idea and you can't really pursue it, then you're not an entrepreneur. So you
Mm,
can have an idea, it may not necessarily be a brand new idea. 10% of it might be new, it might be something that already exists, but by you doing something 10% different to anybody else, you're already setting yourself apart and you're creating a space where you can really bring about a specific demand. What I've learned over the years, I'll tell you how I started, working as an independent consultant or just as an entrepreneur. I started first in corporate and realized that there's a gap and a demand for certain services that needed to be given, to HR directors, to corporate individuals in the space around diversity, inclusion, and just transformation. I didn't just jump ship and you say, no, I'm going to start a business. Instead, what I did is I needed to understand what is in the market. I needed to understand what the market is looking for in order for me to be able to service the market and create that particular continuous demand, right? And what I needed to do as well was also understand myself and my capability and capacity to service those individuals that are there. So it's always important that whenever one goes into such an environment, they have a clear understanding of what is it that they are going to be doing. So I always try and create a space for many individuals that would create a return on investment for me. So let's say, for instance, if ever I'm going to go to a client, I want to make sure that that particular client is satisfied they understand what I am offering to them,
Mm.
and they're willing to pay. Remember, you can't do anything for free. Things that you're going to be doing for free will never bring you money. And
Yeah.
so you've got to be able to do certain things. So the 10 things that I always subscribe, or that I would subscribe now for people that are startups. You mentioned something important. Startups fail in the first 2 years, right,
Yeah.
of their existence.
Mm.
Why do they fail? And there's very excuse me, basic reasons why they fail. Some may be rushing into the business, not having made the necessary research to understand the depth and the breadth of the market, size of market, and also pricing right. Others go
Mm.
in with very limited resources, and then they find themselves drowning to an extent whereby they cannot service the market that they had anticipated. The market might be there. The market might actually be there and exist, but individuals might not have the capacity.
Mm.
And the other reason might be the fact that in the limited knowledge that they have, when they gain the clients, they can't retain the particular clients, and the clients churn is high. And so when you start now having a lot of clients dropping off from you, that affects your bottom line, that affects your revenue, and eventually you go out of business. Now, let's jump into the 10 things that I I I have, identified for some of the startups. So remember, once you go into business, from my side, I've gone past the 2 years as a startup. I'm no longer a startup. We're a fully fledged business that run with the clients and consistently have done so for the past 5 years, right? But now, in the journey that I have learned, I have then been able to identify critical things that people need to do. For instance, the first thing that I highlight in my 10 things to do is you've got to have the guts to start, to deliver, and to not procrastinate. What do I mean by that?
Mhm.
Being a startup already indicates that you have a yearning to want to do something in the business space. But then the guts is what is going to take you to the next level in combating the challenges that you have as a small business and as a startup. One of the things is that Magwala don't make it in the startup in the business space.
True.
If you're going to be scared to approach a person, if you're going to be scared to fail, you're not going to make it. You know,
Mm.
funny enough, I read an article that said that South Africans have got brilliant ideas, but they are scared to fail.
To fail.
So if ever you are scared to fail, you're not an entrepreneur. I mean, in my career life as an entrepreneur, I've failed a couple of times. I've got a business that has failed, which was a family business. I've got a business that has failed, which I did with friends. I've got a business that has failed where I have started on my own. There's many scars to business failure, but so many learnings came out of it.
Mm.
So in building the current business, there were learnings that I had taken throughout the years. In fact, I was telling someone, I said, by being able to deliver, you are telling yourself in your brain a couple of times, you're imprinting the formula for success.
Mm.
The moment you procrastinate and you don't deliver for a particular client, whether you are a photographer, whether you are selling sweets, whether you're selling a service, you are also imprinting a formula for failure. You're imprinting that formula that says, I can promise, but I don't have to fully deliver.
Mm.
And that in itself hinders on how you're going to price, how you're going to generate money, and how you're going to grow as a business. Because
Yeah.
what are you going to tell me if ever you didn't deliver well and then it's time for increase on the contract? Do you think I'm going to increase that?
Mm-mm.
No. I'm not. I'm going to look at you and say, in fact, we're thinking of terminating your contract. We're thinking of using somebody else. So being able to have guts to do and being able to deliver and not procrastinate sets you apart from the rest of your competitors, because they might be doing similar things, they might be doing same things, but you've got to be able to deliver. So
Mm.
it's as I said, people that are entrepreneurs are crazy. Some of them, you leave a 9 to 5, a solid income, and you say, no, I want to try this thing and do this. It's craziness. It's just
Been there.
madness. You could go and just be there and find a job.
Yeah.
So you've got to support that craziness. You've got to make sure that you will live up to that thing that you started.
Yeah.
So that for me is very important. Now, the second thing that I highlight in my top 10 or in my 10 things is that your attitude determines your latitude. So being a startup does not automatically say that you're going to be small all the time. So what does that mean? If you think small, you're always going to remain small. But if you think big and you think smart and you think fast, you then can alter the direction that you're going to be taking. So automatically, you're not going to get victory by just saying you start a business. A lot of people just think it's a fancy thing to be called an entrepreneur. They think it's a nice, no, I'm running my own business. It is tough. It is not,
So
it's not
it's a
something that,
LinkedIn description, though.
yeah. Yeah, it's probably a social media description, but it doesn't give you the
Yeah.
latitude, the extent to which you can become bigger than what you think. And your attitude will also help you understand the market and people you're dealing with, right? One, it will help you understand the clients you're dealing with. So
Mm.
I have a very close relationship with my clients. One, in understanding them, I understand the capacity I have and the ability to service them.
Yeah.
If I understand my clients and I know how they respond to me, I can be different in my execution. I can be specific in my execution. So when you don't know someone, you can't necessarily fulfill their specific needs. And hence many times we find people that they get clients but they lose them to the competitors. There's new trends that come in and they ignore those trends and they say, ah, no, it doesn't matter. There's innovation that comes on a regular basis, and people don't use the tools for
Mm.
innovation in order for them to speed their delivery. So you need to determine how far you want to go and how high you can rise by altering your attitude towards your business. So that's the second thing. The third thing is that, you know, numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. Financial accounting will keep you accountable. So if you manage your accounts and are able to report on your accounts, you will always remain relevant to yourself, to the business, and you'll be accountable to yourself and to the business. That's why the I like the way that the Roman Dutch business law explains that a business is a legal entity, independent legal entity, meaning it is treated like a person. Although
Hmm.
you are a director or a founder or a shareholder, but the business is personified by the manner in which it does things, it carries on things, it reports, and it does a lot around its financial means. So your financials will always determine how far you're going to go. So if you have a startup, you're in your first 2 years of business, and you don't have a bookkeeper or you don't have somebody who's doing your accounts, make sure you get software that can manage those particular accounts. If you don't have that, you might find yourself, using. I always tell people that sometimes we have the business card and the personal card in the wallet, but then when you pull out the business card, it's also your personal card. So you take it
Yeah.
out, it's a personal card, and then you put it back for another thing. It's a business card. So you've got to be able to separate your finances, even though some of the finances could be uh, covered under the business, and it's a very strong long topic around how do you offset some of your personal expenses within the business construct, especially if you're a small business and you're still starting up. But never ever drown your business at the expense of your personal life or your lifestyle. So you can't go to Conquer and swipe that business card just because you're taking a few friends out. You want to show them that you have a business. No, you've got to be accountable. If you're going to entertain people, what is the ROI on that? You can go and entertain people, but what have those people brought? Can those people bring more business? And it's
Mm.
it's it's just the nature of business and how it works. The fourth thing is you need to always revolve, evolve your business, reiterate. So we call when your business start to change and you start getting verticals, is different iterations of your business. So you need to reinvent your business so that it is constantly changing. The only constant thing is change. You can't
Mm.
sit and not change. So what it means is that if you run a business, you constantly have to be above the water. You've got to make sure that your business model consistently services that particular market that you have identified. So ask yourself questions. How else can I do this? How else can I generate income? What else can I do within the same business construct to generate income? And hence, I always tell people it's a very, business jargon always works because they tell you what are the verticals, right? This line that goes across is horizontal. Anything that goes like that is vertical. So like a fish bone, your core business is going in this direction, but things that you can service within the core are verticals that are there. And so you need to ask yourself, if I have this core business, what are verticals that I can run in there? If I'm a photographer, what else can I do? I can do live streaming as you do. I can do various other things. These are verticals. They're not away from the business, but they are within the construct of the business. So many people find themselves saying, no, you can't be jack of all trades. You're trying too many things. No, some of the businesses are interrelated and you need to be brave enough to explore them, be brave enough
Expand.
to
Yeah.
introduce them into your business, because you
Yeah.
might be sitting on an opportunity and someone doesn't give you that. So
Tabo,
yeah,
can I jump in there?
cool.
Uh, how do you see artificial intelligence being one of the threats, to use into growing businesses?
So we must be very very careful as well around immature adoption of innovation, right? In my second
Yeah.
point, I spoke about your attitude towards innovation, your attitude towards a business determines your latitude. So for
Yeah.
instance, if let's say for instance use it your AI tools are very good at fast tracking some of the things that are long wounded and time consuming, right? For instance, if you use chat gpt to give you a skeleton view of a business plan. So I've done so many things on chat gpt where I've said, okay, give me a skeletal rendition of a risk matrix, right? It will give you headlines. It will give you things that you need to consider. I would say, give me a headline for a credit policy. It would give me that. But remember, in using those tools, they only give you a springboard. You need to do further work to that so that you just
Mhm.
don't depend on them to an extent that when a client starts to see your work, it's monotonous and they can start seeing that no, this is computer generated work. This is
Yeah.
things that are generated by. So when you look at AI, there are certain things that AI can do. In one, fast tracking your process of writing documentation. Number two, they can also help you with decision making. They can help you summarize research documents. They can help you do various things around marketing and SEO. So you need to be able to understand first what AI can do
Can do for you.
for you before you just do a total dependency on it. Hence, I'm saying it's attitude. Many people think AI, no, it's going to take jobs, blah, blah, blah. No. Think around the capability of AI and how AI can be utilized to fast track your delivery. Remember, your delivery determines how much you can charge for the next deal that comes on.
Yeah.
Cool. And so the fifth thing is, no one wants to talk to an empty headed business owner. So, what do I mean by that? Knowledge is power. Educate yourself and educate yourself multiple times on things that are current, things that are current for your client, and things that are paining points for your clients. So if ever you do not create a space as an individual to drive conversation with yourself on learning, you can't carry a conversation. So some of the things that I find myself doing is I can cold sell to a client in a meeting or on a call because I have educated myself around what their pain points are. And again, over time, you gain knowledge and you gain experience around
That's correct.
what happens around the business landscape and individuals. And also, by you educating yourself, you become so equipped that if you have that elevated pitch, you meet Motsepe on the way. You have only less than a minute to convince them or talk to him around what your business does. You can be able to strip the get that conversation going. Sometimes you might find yourself as a startup, you featuring at a summit for SMEs and startups. And I see a lot of guys, they attend all these summits, conferences, and many other open events, but they sit in the corner and then leave without context. What are you doing there? Your main aim of
Free
being there
food.
is to expand, you understand, to get business. But guess what? If you can't string a 15 minutes conversation around current affairs, around things such as technology, around your business area, you are not going to be able to convert it into a sale or even a meeting. So when you
Mhm.
then equip yourself and you find knowledge that is relevant to your industry and to those that you're targeting, then you will be able to survive competitively as a startup. Number six is that if you lack a skill, but you have the money, buy it. There's nothing wrong in admitting to the fact that you don't know how to do certain things. You don't know how to do financials. Learn the basics of the financials, but get an accountant to do the financials for you. If you don't know how to code, but you've got a business that requires coding, hire a programmer. If you've got
Mhm.
a marketing requirement in your proposal, get someone to do part of the proposal in marketing and pay them. The biggest thing that many startups have is that they hold on to the revenue and income and not be able to grow because they don't have the necessary skills. So they would say no, but we don't have money. But you have money that you can spend to grow your money, which is going to be the next point, which I'm going to touch on around money. But if
Investment.
you don't spend money on skills, remember, you can't concentrate on growing the business. And there's a
Mhm.
conversation that we always talk about, working in the business or on the business. You have to interchange. Certain theory says that most of the time you have to work on the business and not too much in the business. But in my personal experience, I say you've got to interchange in working on the business and in the business. When working on the business, you've got to do so much to equip the business with the right skills and the resources and support for you to make sure that when you are in the business is able to run.
It runs
Yeah.
itself.
So it's so important that many people, forget about that. You've got to make sure that you work on getting the right skills. Most leaders, they are backed by people who are strikers, scorers. I always say, find a striker for you, find that scoring person. You don't have to go in there. Buy the ball, hire the field, and then play another team, but have those players that can score for you. So we need to think differently around that piece. Now, number seven is,
Before you go to number seven,
yeah,
Tabo, I think another challenge that small businesses fail is hand to mouth.
yeah,
You go out to look for a job, you do your job, you get paid for it, and that money goes already. It passes your bank, your business bank, into your personal life to cover your costs and
yeah.
everything else. And that's why it becomes difficult for small businesses to grow, because now it's hand to mouth. You can't invest in the company. That money that you charged, you probably, when you're quoting for that business, you you looked at what you currently are looking to satisfy as debts,
Hmm, hmm.
and then you quote around that money. You're gonna do the job. Tabu's gonna pay me. When I'm paid, oh, I'm gonna pay my rent. I'm this and that and that. And that's what I've noticed, even for myself, over the years, that it had to be a trend that I need to break away from.
So
And that's why the businesses don't
yeah.
grow.
So you've got to ask yourself a few things, right? Number one,
Mm,
what type of business do you want to be and to operate, right? So there is your self-employed, perpetually broke business individuals that are going to work and then feed that requirement on a regular basis to say, I need to pay my bills. There you are self employed, and you've got to either make peace with it and say, my model, my business model is that I won't get to a level where I need to hire another person, right? And with that, it may require a level of discipline for you to understand what is going to keep you in that particular business. There's nothing wrong in running a business that is a subsistence business, but you've got to have the discipline to want to grow that particular business and save money.
mm,
Because remember,
mm, mm.
you might find a person who says, no, I've started this business and the income I'm sitting on only covers my current expenses and my family expenses. One cannot say, no, don't put money into your family expenses and stuff. No, but you've got to structure it in a way that is going to help you grow grow into a level where you can be able to hire someone. Then there's a secondary type of business, a type of business where an individual has got the skill and has got the network that they can utilize, where they can start growing and multiply in revenue. Now, this type of business has got the potential to become a corporate or a business that can hire individuals. But what lacks is that particular attitude and hand to mouth, mentality. That individual needs to understand that what you take out of the business is the life and the blood of the business. So you've got to be able to sacrifice. So many entrepreneurs who have been able to sacrifice over a short period of time, they have seen the returns on a higher basis over
The
time. So
difference.
if you learn to withdraw your to sacrifice over a period, you will be able to grow that particular business over the thing. Now, if you don't sacrifice, guess what you're going to do? You will end up sacrificing the business. And then
And we
you
don't
don't
want
want
that,
that, right? And then
eh?
the last type of business is a person who understands why do we start businesses. There's very few reasons why we start businesses. We start businesses to grow it and eventually sell it so that you can make income that is going to serve you either beyond pension and the rest, or get clients that can help you double and grow the business. And many people do not have this conversation. That is why a lot of organizations that grow, you see good businesses grow, they become medium sized, they grow, but they never think around those two things. Can I, one, list as a business? Can I eventually list? Can I eventually sell to someone and gain liquidity? Because a good business that is sold is cash on hand immediately. And with that cash on hand, because you are an entrepreneur, you have business ideas, you already have startup capital. So the more you grow and you multiply, you sell to grow. And hence, the businesses on the other side, they look for such businesses. In order for them to multiply, they grow and buy. So there's two things that always happen in business: grow and sell, or grow and buy. And that's why we call these things acquisitions. When you start seeing an organization such as Bitvest, they are acquiring other businesses. And those that were entrepreneurs who had built those small businesses, they have sold to Bitvest. It is how it is. And that's how we do business. Businesses are meant to grow and be sold, or businesses are meant to grow through acquisition. And so when you start thinking differently around the mentality of what type of business you want, you will learn to sacrifice, or you learn to structure your finances in a way that makes sense for the future of your business. So the seventh thing that is there is that money goes to money. Money goes where there is money. So if ever a business is able to invest in itself, it will be able to attract money from outside, from the clients. So a friend of mine yesterday was saying, someone said, hey, akina spani man, there's no job, so anzamele business. That is not, that's not going to work. How do you say
Mhm.
I'm unemployed, I don't have money, give me business so I can make money? But what are you going to do? What are you going to
How
sell?
would you prove? Yeah.
You're going to need money to start, right? Yes, there are very few businesses you can start with a zero, capital or money. But if you apply the mentality that I'm starting from zero, I would need money, then you're starting with the open hand, where you're asking, you're begging. It's not going to work. You're going to eventually, if someone does something for you, you'll just be that hand to mouth, and you'll last 1 year, and then you'll drop out, because the mentality of running a business is not that of a beggar, is that of a doer who then gets paid for what they are doing. And so, what I mean is that when you have money and you are generating in a business, in a startup, in order for you to become competitive, you've got to invest in your business to attract money. So, for instance, if someone says, no, we have a deal that is 100,000, and you've never done 100,000 rands worth of business,
The business.
if there is no trust in you, you won't be able to match. If they ask you and say, you know what, what's the biggest invoice you've invoiced, and you're like, no, 5,000, then you can't get 100,000 rands deal. How are you going to manage that particular income? How are you going to provide a service where you can capitalize first with 50,000 to gain 100,000? So that's why money goes where there's money. And that is why when you start a business and you know your worth, and you know that, like, say, for instance, for consulting, if you know that your worth as a consultant is an hourly rate of 500 versus an hourly rate of 1,000, you charge that. And a person who's going to give you business will say, okay, fine, this person is a 500 rands an hour, so if we do 50 hours, blah blah blah, this is how much it's going to be. All right, I can trust this individual. But if you go in, no, whatever, maybe you tell me how much you want to charge me, forget it, you're not going to get that type of business. You've got to be so certain around your value as a business, around your pricing, and around what you can do from an invoicing perspective, so that you can be able to attract the right amount of money. And remember, when you do that perpetually, you'll grow from 100,000. You'll start invoicing 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, a million, plus, 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 10 million, 5 million. And eventually your turnover grows on the basis of your ability to handle what is given to you. But if you can't handle it, no, you're not going to get more that is going to be given to you. Okay,
Interesting.
so eighth thing is, the faster you invoice, the less bloodsuckers you'll attract. So in other words, people are scared of invoicing. People are scared of paying. So in order for you to save time, because time is money, find clients that are willing to pay. If it's someone said, no, can you do this for me, and you give them a quotation, and they come back and they want to negotiate to half, and to put negotiate to a bone, walk away. You are better off not having that particular business. The faster you invoice, the less bloodsuckers you'll have surrounding you. People are always going to ask for a discount. Let them ask for a
Yeah.
discount after payment first, before they just come with the discount mentality. Because sometimes people ask for a discount and they haven't even given you a job. Where is the discount going to come from? What am I discounting? You understand? Because now
Mm.
you already, you putting me on
Mm.
a back foot. I have to decide on a back foot and on a desperate space, because you are holding what you need to give me, but you want a discount. So you walk away from those things. And when I say the faster you invoice, the more you'll have less bloodsuckers, is because the bulk of the time we give free service, we give free advice. So for me, I always tell people, I use my brain, and I use people's ignorance, and I use gaps in order for me to create business and grow. Now, for every invoice, there's an invoice. For every voice, there's an invoice. So whatever's going to come out of my brain as my IP to help you grow, I am going to invoice you. So for every voice, there's invoice. So for every time you spend in creating a quotation, analyzing, going around, and find a way in which you can invoice. Stop with these perpetual people who are asking for discounts, who are asking for favors. Favors
Freebies.
don't pay bills. So walk away. The faster you walk away and you tell a person, this is my value, this is my worth, they will stop. So you've got to
Mm.
invoice very fast. And it will cut out all the silliness that many people have and all of these big negotiators that never bring business to you. The ninth thing, which is,
Tabo, at what
yeah,
point, sorry, at what point do you do that? Let's say we're talking about startups here, right? They're starting a company, they don't have a profile, they don't have clients that they serviced before. They're looking to build that rapport in the market. When do you stop
so
negotiating?
so so now let me put it this way. There are two things that you do when you start a business, which are very pertinent
Yeah.
to your building credentials, right? You're building your credentials. You want to be known. Because for any startup,
Yeah.
if you're going to do free business straight up. Don't be pushed into no corner to do free business. And I always certain, say to other individuals, there are certain things we can do for free in order for us to build relationships. And when we build the relationships, it will help us to build our profile. And when we build our profile, it builds trust. But that is probably
Yeah.
10% of the time that we spend as a business. And as a startup, you might spend maybe 20 to 30% of highlighting what you are capable of. But you must have a cutoff point and say, I've already done this for you. Going forward, here is the invoice. Remember, there's nothing wrong in even 100% discounting what you're doing for a person, but invoice them. How else will they know what the value of what you were doing was?
Yeah, the value.
You know,
Yeah.
when people talk
Yeah.
about pro bono, it does not mean that they don't record that and say, this is how much I was supposed to do this for. It's pro bono, but you've got to create a space in which you're going to have that. So, so it's very, very important.
Mm.
Mondli, can you use another net link that I sent after? Okay, let's. Thanks for it. So, 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 so let's carry on. If you think around the the value of invoicing, is that you are showing people what your service is worth or what your product is worth. Without that, people cannot know and do not know what is it that they can, expect
Mm.
from you. But the moment you are always agreeing to a discount, then you are losing out on a few things there, right? But you must make sure if you're going to give a 100% discount, make me know how much it was, how much your service was worth, even though I'm not paying for it. So people must also just adopt that thing of
That's a
giving a
good
hundred
point there. Yeah.
a zero, 100% discount, but make sure that you know, so that when I come and invoice you, you
Mm.
know that I'm not far from what I had would have gotten from you the last time when I did it for free.
Yeah.
And then the second last one is
Thank you for that.
you've got
Yeah.
to get, I say you've got to get gray heads behind you or in your corner. Gray heads in as in not literally, but people who have the experience. You can't buy experience. Experience can never be bought. So if you
Mm.
get to understand what other people's mistakes were, you won't repeat those mistakes. If you get to understand what other people's
Mm.
successes were, you'll try and emulate those successes. You've got to have sounding boards that are going to help you grow your business, and they are going to help you access the bigger network. You see, one of the things that I do very well is I try and expand my network in order for me to be introduced to new clients. And I try and also create other networking opportunities for others so that they can expand who they know. So that when you are in a business space, you don't feel alone. It can be a very lonely space. But if you find the right people and you find the right people with experience, especially those that have been there much longer, then you can benefit from them. Remember, as a startup, you as a startup are going to just continue growing and you're going to reach heights and heights, but you're going to reach problems, challenges, hurdles. Who are you going to be talking to around those particular hurdles? Someone has done what you're trying to do in a week, someone can do in a day. Not GPT though, a real person. So someone is trying to do what you're trying to do and you're struggling for a month, someone can pull in a week, and someone has resources to do it much faster. So get to understand who you need in your corner and rely on those individuals to help you, go past these land miles. And then the last thing, study trends. Don't rush to trend. Study the trends, don't rush to trend. I think when we have one or two startups, when they have one or two success stories, all of a sudden they want to blow out and, social media market. No, we've closed this, we've done this. Yes, celebrate your successes, but don't don't rush to trend. Build a base whereby you can say, you know what, as a startup, I've grown from this space and I've now reached a certain level. I then can start sharing, my successes. But I'm sharing my successes as a marketing way of growing my business, not as a bragging way of growing my business. If you've clocked a 500,000 or your first million, there's it's not worth it for you to go and start and you start putting yourself into the social medias and stuff. No, if you can replicate and you can grow that million to 5 million, then you can start talking. But your first million means nothing. Your first 500,000 may mean a lot to you, but it's not time for you to trend. Watch the business trends, because you
Mm.
might be riding a wave that is going to fall. But if you understand the business trends, you will grow and move from wave to wave. And that is when we spoke about, different iterations of your business, and being able to be accustomed to change. You'll change faster. You'll move from one wave to another, bigger waves, bigger waves, bigger waves. And the more you move and grow your business, your revenue grows, your size grows, you become an appealing business to be bought. Remember, we want ourselves as startups to grow to sustainability. When we have a sustainable business, we grow to business that is attractive. When a business is attractive, we go to a business that can be acquired. And then, if you don't want to be acquired, you can grow to acquire other businesses and be a bigger a business that can list. So those are things that one needs to think about. Those are my 10 things. And if one wants to go through them, is one, have the guts to start. Number one, have the guts to start and deliver.
Before
Yeah.
before you do that, Thabo, um, right, we've reached the mark of our show where we have to wrap up. And if you have questions, we just want to give you this opportunity to ask at least one question and see if our guests can be able to answer it. I see we do have somebody online. Um, Yuli, you unmuted. You can unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hello. Oh, sorry, I didn't unmute. I have been speaking by myself.
No
Okay,
problem.
good
Hi,
evening,
Yuli.
everyone.
Good evening to
Thank
you.
you for this interesting show. I got disturbed a bit by a call. I hope I'm not going to ask a question that has been addressed. However, if I do, forgive me for that. I wanted to ask, when it's coming to the finance part, what will our guest speaker advise a startup that they are living hand to mouth? Let's say you start a business and you start from nothing, and the moment you make your first thousand, that morning you need to spend it to run the house. What advice can you give to a startup who's going through such a financial battle? Thank you.
Thank you for that, Julie. Tabo, can we
Yeah, I'll
take
touch
another
on it.
question?
Yeah, I'll take
Maybe
another
you've
question.
made a note of that one. Yeah. All right. Let's start. Ronald. Ronald, you can unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. This is with regards to experiencing failure. So I heard Tabo just mentioned failing whilst trying to start a business with friends or family or whatever it may be as an individual as well. But one thing I want to know is that what kept you motivated to continue being an entrepreneur, even though going back to working in corporate was even an option?
Right. Thank you for that, Duncan. Right, Tabo, I think
Cool.
you can
So
shoot.
so Ronald, it was Ronald, Ronald and Yoli. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me,
Yeah.
let me start with Mayoli. Mayoli, remember one thing that we said is that there's three types of businesses that one may exist, that one may be part of. Either the hand to mouth that you are talking about, or a business that is growing that requires, some level of management, and a business that is bigger that can be acquired. So now, if you think of a startup hand to mouth, if you're saying you've made 1,000, is that profit that you've made as 1,000, or is it revenue that you've just generated and you're going to eat it? So in other words, if even in a hand to mouth business, there are basic costs that you need to consistently keep and not eat. So if you are, let me put it in simple terms, you can't go and slaughter a cow that you use for milking, right? So if ever you are going to be eating hand to mouth, do not slaughter the cow that you use for milk in order for you to generate income. So if it's 1,000 that you have made and you've got things that you need to take care of, learn to sacrifice certain things, but always make sure that whatever you were producing with that 1,000 rands, you can still produce, and gradually get to a stage where you don't have to take out of the business, but you can have an expense that you pay yourself to take care of the business expenses. So if you've got that 1,000 today, don't utilize it for the thing, for what you need, but have a portion that you utilize so that you can grow into making another 1,000, another 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Eventually you can pull a salary out of your business. So I learned this very early in my days when we were selling fed cooks with my brother, and we wanted to buy more mountain bikes, and my mother would say, you are the ones that are going to save for your own mountain bikes. So if ever you eat what you're saving, then you won't be able to buy. But as well, I need to consistently make the fed cooks in order for me to sell. So you need to figure out how much money is going to come back to me with profit, and with your particular payment, you'll get your payment, and in your payment, what are you going to use as spend money, and for you to keep money for buying the bicycle. So you've got to learn the discipline early on. If you learn the discipline on 1,000 rands, you can learn the discipline on 1,000,000 rands. So Ronald, in terms of giving up, um you know entrepreneurs are crazy people, as I said before, is that you have to be a different breed of not giving up. And if the option at a particular time is to go back into corporate, there's nothing wrong about going back to corporate in order for you to recover. But uchachela mrawa so chaba mara balance. So you can go backwards to take a balance a bit so that you can gain some startup capital again, and then go back into entrepreneurship. Many individuals have done that. They've actually fallen, went back to work, and then come back into business. And for me, I've had these ups and downs with different partners, and I'm still gonna have failures. I'm still gonna have things where that I'm gonna lose. But one thing I know is that I have built capital, and I have built mental capacity and IP that can help me earn certain income faster than I used to before. And hence I said earlier on, experience
Mm.
cannot be bought. And so over time, with the falling and standing up, you only gain confidence once you have the experience. If you don't have the experience, you can't be confident. So for me, over the years, I've gained enough experience to stand in front of anyone that I think is a potential client who I can service and they can pay. So with that, then I'm at a stage where I don't need to go back to corporate because I'm desperate for an income. But at the same time, one who's an entrepreneur needs to also be responsible in the decisions that they make. That whatever you are, look at the responsibilities you have. Is it time to go back and at least take a breather for a year or two? Or can you continue with what you have, maybe savings or something else, in order for you to carry on?
Yeah, it needs resilience. I've been on that mode where
Yeah,
I was thinking of going back to corporate
it's tough.
because yeah, it's been tough. But with resilience, it helps as well. And I like the point when you say, the IP that you have gathered over the years should sustain you going forward. And thanks for that. Um, I think we have covered most of the questions. What we'll do is that this show is being recorded and will be live on will be uploaded on YouTube. It'll also be uploaded on different podcasts. So when you're listening there and you do have questions, you would have the opportunity to also type your questions there. That will be able to see them. I'll forward them to them, and we can carry the discussion. If we need to have another show, as a continuity, we'll definitely have to check with Tabo for that. But I don't think he would say no to this.
Yeah,
Look
and
at
I
his
think
smile already.
there's one comment around access. Access is still a challenge, so we need to learn how to knock on the
Yeah,
doors. So
yeah.
remember one thing is that as an entrepreneur, you can be on a back foot, but you've got to get the right people in your corner to get you to market access. In most cases,
Mm,
80% of the business that is generated is through either word of mouth, referral, or marketing response. The marketing response is way lower than
mm.
referral and a direct inquiry. So it's so important that when we talk about access to market, we try and create spaces for each other. And I'm a firm believer in that, because I've done it so many times where when there's an opportunity and I know it's not mine, but I know someone needs that opportunity, I will send it to them with immediate effect, and I'll say, listen, you've got to go get this thing, it's yours, right? But with that, you need to be trusting, and you need to have seen the person's work. I'm not going to refer someone who I don't trust on a particular matter or on a deal. But
Mm,
I want to always make sure that when I give access, my name is part of that particular thing. If ever it gets asked, like, who referred you? It's like, no, Tabo. Oh, okay, fine. Then you are also reputable. But what you're doing is that you are creating a network of trust around multiple people. And hence, when I say, if you've got the right people in your corner, if I call today and I say, hey, Neo, one thing is that income is low. Can you refer me to someone? Then Neo, by virtue of knowing my capability and understanding my delivery, requirements, can say, "Ish, at the moment I don't know, but if something comes up, I will do this." So you've built a rapport around access, and you get that thing to go and get this thing going.
yeah. Tandi says there, thanks, Tabo. Entrepreneurship is a lonely road. However, it
Yeah.
pays and teaches to
No,
be
so
resilient.
so
That is
nothing
so
pays
true.
like
Yeah.
entrepreneurship if you do it right.
Yeah. Yes, that's so true. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into our show this evening. We really gleaned so many gems from Tabo's experience and what he has done to grow his business, and we still have a lot more questions to ask him. It's just we just run out of time. But Tabo, can you commit in front of everyone that we can have another
No,
show on this?
I can definitely commit. So for those that know, I do run a podcast,
Yeah,
T Junction, and we are changing the format
yeah,
with for T Junction, and we are busy talking to one or two sponsors, and we're trying to collaborate with them. Remember, it takes a lot, and I know now this is hard work, which you are doing here. And many people may
yeah,
think that it's easy, it's just a plug and play. It's not. There's a lot of work that goes behind the scene, and so I'm definitely going to collaborate
yeah.
with Neo around the business master classes that can benefit startups. Some of the things that I haven't shared is some of the areas I work in as a startup coach on an international level and also on a South African level. So there's master classes that we can collaborate on now, but also at the right time, individuals should also attend to some of the paid content that we have. Some of the things that we do it on a paid
Yeah.
basis. This is more our contribution to the community, but on a paid basis, there's also other things that you can get, such as tools. You can get access to individuals that can assist your business to grow your business, coaching and stuff like that. But I do commit that I will be available to drive conversations, to come back again and touch another topic. For now, I think the topic was very relevant for many people that we try and work with.
Yeah. All right. All right. Thank you so much, Thabo. Thank you for honoring our invitation. It was an honor to have you on my show there. And thanks to everyone that has connected on Telegram, also on Riverside. And I saw we also had a lot more connecting on YouTube. So we thank you for that, even though there were no comments yet, but I know they will still be coming. We're going to have this show posted again on YouTube for access to those that were not able to see it, and also on our podcast. So on the look out for an NMP talk show on your podcast. Then you'll find us there. All right, thank you so much. My name is Naum Rapedi, the host of NMP Talk Show, and this is how we signing out. You need internet? You need